For this week's Toil and Trouble slot, I'm talking to Tompkins Wake partner Daniel Erickson about an ERA decision last week finding TVNZ had not properly consulted its staff about redundancies made in the wake of a slump in advertising revenue. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Now, let's just outline what's happened here.
Well, it's probably been well publicised in the media, but TVNZ have gone through a series of restructurings, and most recently they've cancelled a few news programs, etc., resulting in the redundancy of the people that work on their shows. In this particular case, the union that represents a number of employees there too has sought a compliance order under the Employment Relations Act. What they have said is that TVNZ did not comply with a particular provision in the collective agreement that applied or still applies to these employees regarding consultation.
Right.
And the authority has ultimately agreed with the union that this clause has been breached.
Now, tell us a bit more about this particular clause, Clause 10.1 point something.
Yeah. Well, if you just go back one step, in any restructuring redundancy situation, there's an obligation to consult. That's part of the duty of good faith, which is set out in the Employment Relations Act. In this case, there was a particular clause which required, as the authorities found, a higher level of consultation. And it actually noted that it required consultation earlier than might otherwise be required. So under the Act, you need to consult when you have a proposal. So when you have a plan or an idea that may result in termination of employment, you have to consult at this point. What the authority seems to be saying here is that actually in terms of formulating that proposal, this particular clause says you should have been more engaged with your workers at that point.
It's kind of a grey area, isn't it? Because, TVNZ has been losing advertising revenue for a long time. And also, the company said that it had done some consultation during these certain typical meetings and things that they had. So what have they done wrong?
Well, I think it just goes back, as I said before, that they've effectively said that, when you were deciding on your working plan to cut the Sunday program, whatever, at that particular point there should have been engagement, rather than management coming in and saying, we've come up with an idea to get rid of these shows or cancel them. That earlier stage there should have been involvement there and a heavier level of engagement at that point.
But employees are never going to want their jobs to be written off, are they?
Absolutely.
So what is the solution to this?
Well, I guess that the whole point of consultation is having an open mind, because somebody else might have an idea you haven't thought of.
Right.
So someone in your workplace may have a different plan. Now, obviously, in a situation like this, where the revenue is dropping sharply, the authorities noted that. Obviously, you need to do something. But I guess there's always a possibility that your plan isn't the best one. And so that's where the obligation to consult comes in.
Right.
And probably particularly more so when you've got a professional and highly engaged workforce who are subject experts in their particular line of work. So, you never know until you actually go out and start talking to people about what else might be an option.
Of course, they had done that. They'd asked for all those ideas to come in. Some 2,000 ideas come in.
Right.
None of them mentioned cutting jobs, and yet this is what the company went for.
Well, a lot of the feedback they got was more focused on maybe reducing management positions, ironically. And there was only a handful of the ideas that actually related to cancelling some of the shows, and there was a couple of the shows that weren't even mentioned in the feedback at that point. So I guess that's what the authority is saying is, you did engage earlier, but the plan you actually came up with was completely different, and you could have engaged on that earlier than you did.
So we know these shows have finished. This week Sunday finished, for example. Where to from here? What can be done? How can these employees find justice?
Well, the parties have been sent back to mediation the authority hasn't actually made any orders yet in terms of what this potential breach may look like, but it has indicated that there has been a breach of this particular clause. Now we don't know. TVNZ may well challenge the authority's determination to the employment court, so it remains to be seen if they do that. But in the meantime, they've been sent back to mediation. I mean, ultimately, it's hard to imagine the authority or the court being, as invasive or directive as saying you must restart these shows, because, I mean, ultimately, that's impinging too much on management prerogative. But if the people that do lose their jobs as a part of this restructure, potentially they've all got grounds for a personal grievance. If there has been a breach of the collective agreement, that of itself potentially renders all of these dismissals unjustified, and there's potentially recourse for financial remedies from those people.
So it probably behoves TVNZ to get it sorted sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's the benefit of being sent to mediation, is there is an opportunity, or a further opportunity, because I'm sure they have been engaging, but a further opportunity to meet and try and hash out a resolution.
It's just, it's interesting to think about what could the resolution be, because, I mean, these people can't get other jobs probably in the organisation.
No, but that's probably right. I mean, if there is a downturn in revenue, and that doesn't seem to be disputed, it seems to be common ground that something needs to be done. I guess the question is this the best way? Is there an opportunity to look at the ideas for the change? And I mean, it's potentially too late if some of these shows have already been discontinued. It's potentially it's too late. But are there other opportunities for different roles within the organisation? Are there other areas where costs can be saved? But look, you don't know until you have those conversations.
Daniel, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
For more content just like this and all the latest business and political news, head over to mbr.co.nz.